applied.
Yes, Shiv, be with us. I'm just going to go across to Pankaj Upadhyay. Also, Kamlesh Sutar is getting us more details on that. Pankaj, to you first. I believe the DG NCB is also organizing a press conference at 3 o'clock today to discuss, to talk about the charge sheet filed by SIT in the Aryan Khan case. Certainly, they have some answering to do when it comes to this case that they were trying to build about there being a commercial syndicate of sorts when it came to Aryan Khan's alleged involvement. Here we are talking about a man, no drugs were found on him. That's been the argument from day one.
I'm right outside the Narcotics Control Bureau headquarters in Mumbai. This was the very place where the entire story had unfolded. This is the very headquarters wherein on the 3rd of October, Shah Rukh Khan's son, Aryan Khan, along with his friends, Arbaz Merchant and followed by Munman Dhamecha, were brought in. And we saw the events that had unfolded in the days and weeks after. And today the charge sheet has been filed. Aryan Khan, who remained at the center of this entire controversy, his name is not there. In fact, when he was granted bail, I remember, in October 28th, the Bombay High Court then had also said that the Narcotics Control Bureau does not have any prima facie evidence against Aryan Khan, so as to say that he was a part of conspiracy and a larger conspiracy had been hatched and that he was in touch with foreign nationals as such. So then and there, things had become quite clear. And now, even though this charge sheet should have been filed by 31st March, it so happened that the special NDPS court had granted 60 days extension to the SIT of the NCB, because then the Narcotics Control Bureau had maintained that around 12 samples that they had sent for chemical analysis had shown that the contraband that had been recovered indeed came under the ambit of the Narcotics Control Bureau. NCB also maintained that the many people who were arrested were very, very influential and that they could turn the course of the entire case as well. But now, finally, when the charge sheet has been finally filed, Aryan Khan does not find the mention. 5 others do not find the mention, and definitely the Narcotics Control Bureau will have a lot of answering to do, perhaps. A lot of questions definitely will be raised. Shah Rukh Khan was here. Gauri Khan was here, and we saw the entire, the ho-halla that had been created outside the NCB. The officials, not just the NCB officials from Mumbai, the SIT team from Delhi had also come in here, and they had not just maintained that Shah Rukh Khan and his close friend Arbaz Merchant and that Munman Dhamecha were involved. They went to the extent of saying that there was a larger conspiracy at play, and that many calls had been made to the foreign nationals as well. There was a foreign hand as well. So this was made, a story was shown to be much, much bigger than it turns out now. And definitely, a lot of questions will be asked to the Narcotics Control Bureau. Of course, as we all know, that some heads have, of course, rolled in the recent past. Sameer Wankhede,
you mentioned Sameer Wankhede. We play out his first and exclusive reaction. Be with us, Pankaj Upadhyay. The NCB official who's been under the scanner for a while now, Sameer Wankhede, has spoken exclusively to India Today. That's the reaction first on India Today. We're playing that out for our viewers.
आर्यन को उसमें क्लीन चिट देने की बात कही जा रही है, उसके खिलाफ चार्जशीट दाखिल नहीं हुई है. क्या कहना है आपका? आपने पूरा मामला देखा था.
सॉरी मुझे कुछ नहीं कहना है. नो मोर इन एनसीबी, प्लीज आस्क द रिस्पेक्टेड ऑफिसर.
समीर वानखेड़े जी, नारकोटिक्स कंट्रोल ब्यूरो की टीम ने चार्जशीट दाखिल कर दी है. आर्यन को उसमें क्लीन चिट देने की बात कही जा रही है, उसके खिलाफ चार्जशीट दाखिल नहीं हुई है. क्या कहना है आपका? आपने पूरा मामला देखा था.
सॉरी मुझे कुछ नहीं कहना है. नो मोर इन एनसीबी, प्लीज आस्क द रिस्पेक्टेड ऑफिसर.
समीर वानखेड़े जी, नारकोटिक्स कंट्रोल ब्यूरो की टीम ने चार्जशीट दाखिल कर दी है. आर्यन को उसमें क्लीन चिट देने की बात कही जा रही है, उसके खिलाफ चार्जशीट दाखिल नहीं हुई है. क्या कहना है आपका? आपने पूरा मामला देखा था.
सॉरी मुझे कुछ नहीं कहना है. नो मोर इन एनसीबी, प्लीज आस्क द रिस्पेक्टेड ऑफिसर.
समीर वानखेड़े जी, नारकोटिक्स कंट्रोल ब्यूरो की टीम ने चार्जशीट दाखिल कर दी है. आर्यन को उसमें क्लीन चिट देने की बात कही जा रही है, उसके खिलाफ चार्जशीट दाखिल नहीं हुई है. क्या कहना है आपका? आपने पूरा मामला देखा था.
सॉरी मुझे कुछ नहीं कहना है. नो मोर इन एनसीबी, प्लीज आस्क द रिस्पेक्टेड ऑफिसर.
समीर वानखेड़े जी, नारकोटिक्स कंट्रोल ब्यूरो की टीम ने चार्जशीट दाखिल कर दी है। आर्यन को उसमें क्लीन चिट देने की बात कही जा रही है, उसके खिलाफ चार्जशीट दाखिल नहीं हुई है। क्या कहना है आपका? आपने पूरा मामला देखा था।
सॉरी, मुझे कुछ नहीं कहना है। नो मोर इन एनसीबी, प्लीज आस्क द रिस्पेक्टेड ऑफिसर।
समीर वानखेड़े जी, नारकोटिक्स कंट्रोल ब्यूरो की टीम ने चार्जशीट दाखिल कर दी है। आर्यन को उसमें क्लीन चिट देने की बात कही जा रही है, उसके खिलाफ चार्जशीट दाखिल नहीं हुई है। क्या कहना है आपका? आपने पूरा मामला देखा था।
सॉरी, मुझे कुछ नहीं कहना है। नो मोर इन एनसीबी, प्लीज आस्क द रिस्पेक्टेड ऑफिसर।
समीर वानखेड़े जी, नारकोटिक्स कंट्रोल ब्यूरो की टीम ने चार्जशीट दाखिल कर दी है। आर्यन को उसमें क्लीन चिट देने की बात कही जा रही है, उसके खिलाफ चार्जशीट दाखिल नहीं हुई है। क्या कहना है आपका? आपने पूरा मामला देखा था।
सॉरी, मुझे कुछ नहीं कहना है। नो मोर इन एनसीबी, प्लीज आस्क द रिस्पेक्टेड ऑफिसर।
समीर वानखेड़े जी, नारकोटिक्स कंट्रोल ब्यूरो की टीम ने चार्जशीट दाखिल कर दी है। आर्यन को उसमें क्लीन चिट देने की बात कही जा रही है, उसके खिलाफ चार्जशीट दाखिल नहीं हुई है। क्या कहना है आपका? आपने पूरा मामला देखा था।
सॉरी, मुझे कुछ नहीं कहना है। नो मोर इन एनसीबी, प्लीज आस्क द रिस्पेक्टेड ऑफिसर।
समीर वानखेड़े जी, नारकोटिक्स कंट्रोल ब्यूरो की टीम ने चार्जशीट दाखिल कर दी है। आर्यन को उसमें क्लीन चिट देने की बात कही जा रही है, उसके खिलाफ चार्जशीट दाखिल नहीं हुई है। क्या कहना है आपका? आपने पूरा मामला देखा था।
सॉरी, मुझे कुछ नहीं कहना है। नो मोर इन एनसीबी, प्लीज आस्क द रिस्पेक्टेड ऑफिसर।
समीर वानखेड़े जी, नारकोटिक्स कंट्रोल ब्यूरो की टीम ने चार्जशीट दाखिल कर दी है। आर्यन को उसमें क्लीन चिट देने की बात कही जा रही है, उसके खिलाफ चार्जशीट दाखिल नहीं हुई है। क्या कहना है आपका? आपने पूरा मामला देखा था।
सॉरी, मुझे कुछ नहीं कहना है। नो मोर इन एनसीबी, प्लीज आस्क द रिस्पेक्टेड ऑफिसर।
समीर वानखेड़े जी, नारकोटिक्स कंट्रोल ब्यूरो की टीम ने चार्जशीट दाखिल कर दी है। आर्यन को उसमें क्लीन चिट देने की बात कही जा रही है, उसके खिलाफ चार्जशीट दाखिल नहीं हुई है। क्या कहना है आपका? आपने पूरा मामला देखा था।
सॉरी, मुझे कुछ नहीं कहना है। नो मोर इन एनसीबी, प्लीज आस्क द रिस्पेक्टेड ऑफिसर।
समीर वानखेड़े जी, नारकोटिक्स कंट्रोल ब्यूरो की टीम ने चार्जशीट दाखिल कर दी है। आर्यन को उसमें क्लीन चिट देने की बात कही जा रही है, उसके खिलाफ चार्जशीट दाखिल नहीं हुई है। क्या कहना है आपका? आपने पूरा मामला देखा था।
सॉरी, मुझे कुछ नहीं कहना है। नो मोर इन एनसीबी, प्लीज आस्क द रिस्पेक्टेड।
Sameer Wanखेड़e's first reaction on India Today. Shiv, what would we really expect him to say? This man was shunted out. His role has been under the scanner. He was trying to build a case of a commercial syndicate. He was pulled out of the case. Here's somebody who says, I don't want to comment on this no longer.
You know, the very fact that Sameer Wankhede said, don't ask me because I am no longer with the NCB, that really answers the entire question. Sameer Wankhede, who was the kind of, who pretended to be a kind of superhero, he gave bites, he gave interviews during this entire thing, is now running away from the media and not taking a simple sort of question from India Today's Arvind Ojha, is representative of, his precipitous fall, if I may call it that, Sneha, into disgrace. Sameer Wankhede is an officer who was very, very prominent, high profile, flamboyant, enjoyed the media spectacle surrounding this very high profile case where he was the point person in Mumbai, where sort of very easily spoke to the press, was quite accessible, came on the phone line as well, even though he kept putting in these little caveats saying that this is a case in progress. But it was pretty clear to the public that he was enjoying all of the attention that was coming to him. And now, for him to say, sorry, don't ask me, I'm no longer with the NCB, you'll have to ask the officer concerned, is a little rich. This is a man who has faced departmental proceedings. There has been an investigation and an ongoing one against him as well. And, the questions will have to be asked. We are no one to judge. We cannot, point a finger at Sameer Wankhede and say he is guilty of this, this and this. But proceedings will have to happen because the Narcotics Control Bureau is a very serious organization. It's a serious agency that, has an extremely grave mandate. And the kind of tamasha and spectacle that was seen last year, surrounding Aryan Khan, and for them to now say, we've got no proof against him and he's not part of the charge sheet.
Shiv, just hold on to your thoughts. I'm going to come back to you. Majid Memon of the NCP is with us, also a very well-known lawyer. Thank you for your time, your reaction to what has happened today. No proof, no narcotics found, and no charge sheet against Aryan Khan and 5 others, sir.
Indeed, good news for all the sympathizers of Aryan Khan who have been otherwise very anxious because this young boy was arrested, humiliated, kept in lockup for almost 26 days and had to undergo a great amount of physical, mental agony. And now today the NCB comes and tells the court that there is no evidence against him, so we are discharging him. The question that arises, even lawfully, be it Aryan or be it any other citizen of India or a less important person, it is a question of personal liberty of every individual. Supreme Court has repeatedly told all the investigating officers from various branches, including NCB, NIA, CBI, ED, everybody, all the lot of officers who enjoy powers under the law to arrest. Supreme Court says every word is important. To arrest, power to arrest is one thing, and exercising that power is another. Whilst you have to exercise the power of arresting without court warrant, without an order of the court, you have to be very cautious. You don't encroach upon personal liberty without just cause. And therefore, you have to justify why did you arrest Aryan. When you arrested Aryan, you must have had enough reason to arrest, which you couldn't have deferred. Now, that is what the precise mandate of law is. Now, today, after this boy has spent 26 years torture and 26 days torture, and so much of embarrassment to his celebrity father and all his followers and admirers, you are suddenly blowing down and saying there is no evidence. Has the evidence evaporated, or was there no evidence existing on the day of his arrest? The officer will have to satisfy the whole country, everybody, including the courts, that, well, we arrested because we believe there is involved in a crime which is non-bailable. And today, after greater in-depth investigation, we did not find support to that apprehension that he may have committed the crime, therefore we have discharged. Something of that kind. Simply today saying that no evidence, therefore we discharge him, does not meet the ends of justice. It is not because it is Aryan Khan. It could be any roadster. In any individual citizen of India, his rights of his personal liberty is protected under Article 21 of Constitution of India, which needs to be respected. Unless that is done, this noise which is going on in the country for quite some time, that investigating agencies, central agencies are abusing their authority, abusing their power, to settle the scores or for political reasons, etc., must subside in the best interest of our democracy, our system, which is our civil society, which is governed by rule of law.
Mr. Memon, do you think the Narcotics Control Bureau owes, some direct answers to Aryan Khan and Shah Rukh Khan's family? Is that what you're saying? That beyond the departmental proceedings, they cannot just get away with this, 3-paragraph press note? Do you think that they owe a much more detailed explanation beyond what we are seeing right now, sir?
No, according to, in my humble submission, in my humble view, it is the court which could have raised the question to the police officer who represented NCB in the court and said that no evidence against Aryan Khan. Then the court would have done better if the court had asked that officer that if you are saying today that there is no evidence against this young man, now what evidence existed on the day when you arrested him, and what happened to that evidence? Has it been erased, or has it been destroyed? Now, these are the questions to which a satisfactory answer may flow from the officer. You see, I am not saying that the officer, I am not attributing any malice to the officer. I am saying that the system requires that the officer is under a legal duty to explain and in what circumstances the arrest was effected and in what circumstances discharge has followed.
Mr. Majid Memon, there's always been this argument, and that is something that the advocate Mukul Rohatgi had also spoken about, that jail should be exception and bail essentially should be the rule. This was never applied in the case of Aryan Khan, who spent 5 days in the custody of the NCB and 22 days otherwise as well, isn't it? From the very beginning, the argument was that there was no narcotics found on Aryan Khan.
No, see, in a case of, we are not trying to isolate the case of Aryan Khan from the system. Our legal criminal jurisprudence, our criminal procedure, what does it suggest? It is functioning under the Constitution of India, where Article 21 protects every Indian citizen as far as personal liberty is concerned. The moment a police officer who is equipped with the power to arrest, pounces upon him and arrests him, his personal liberty is gone, even provisionally. In this case, this young boy's personal liberty was taken away for as long as 26 days. Why did the officer not realize on the first or second day that, well, this arrest is not justified, or, well, that we are not going to go into right direction to justify his involvement in this crime, and therefore release him as early as possible. His bail was fought tooth and nail. His bail was opposed tooth and nail. And that is how the boy remained for so long, until Mohal Rastogi descended from Delhi, and then all top council put in all their effort that he was released. This is unfortunate. Now, when you turn within few months ultimately to a conclusion lawfully that there is no evidence against this man, my question to NCB is only this: what evidence existed on the day when you arrested him, and what evidence existed when you justified opposing his bail tooth and nail?
Well, absolutely. Mr. Majid Memon, I want to ask you one last question, because you yourself are an advocate. Mr. Mukul Rohatgi has indicated to us that they would want a closure. What in case the family doesn't want a closure and wants to take the NCB head-on for doing what they did, the manner in which the investigations were carried out, and a case of international drug syndicate was being built against Aryan Khan? In that sense, if they want to take the NCB on, what are the legal options for them?
No, see, the question is, it's a very serious crime. It's a very serious investigation. It's a very great responsibility on NCB officer, and I have respect for them that they have been doing a great job for the society under the rule of law. But then, now, if a person is discharged, but fine. See, Aryan Khan is now out of the case, and the case will proceed against others. I am only expecting that generally our law has been so very clear, and this grievance of people day in and day out that they are wrongly arrested, the grievance of the people that their bail is refused because the strong opposition against bail being rule, jail exception, that is general law. But in special cases like NDPS, etc., it is the reverse. Bail is exception and jail is rule. Therefore, a person whose liberty is encroached upon is in a difficult situation. He is not able to justify his release, cannot persuade the court to release him immediately. That is what has happened in the case of Aryan. So therefore, when a police officer arrests somebody in a serious charge like this, the police officer has to be a little more careful, even before exercising his power to arrest, as Supreme Court says in Jogendra Kumar's case reported in 1994.
All right. Mr. Majid Memon, thank you so much for your time and your perspective on that important story that we're tracking. In fact, for our viewers, just to give them an idea about the current situation, in about an hour from now, the DG NCB is going to be talking about giving a detailed press conference on the charge sheet that has been filed against 14 others. Paras Dama is also getting us more details on that. Paras, take us through the details of who really is in the dock as far as this high-profile case is concerned.
So I'll take you in the past when it started. It started on 2nd October 2021 when NCB official raided Cordelia ship in the evening by 5:30. After that, all the proceeding had started inside the Cordelia ship, where Aryan Khan was also present with his friend Arbaz Merchant and Munmun Danecha, where it all started. And after that, it happened that the Giraftari happened and arrest happened. And after that, all circus started. In between that, I'll just tell you one more important thing that happened a few days ago, where two of the superintendent has been transferred to their origin place where they belong from when they were shifted to NCB. VVS Singh, who was also investigating the case with Samir Wankhede, was transferred to Guwahati, where he was first posted. After that, Mr. Ashish Ranjan, who was also investigating the same case, the Cordelia case, where Aryan Khan was involved, he was also transferred, and he was just transferred to another thing. But after some days, it was noted that he was again back to NCB. And now the most important development happened, that Aryan Khan has been given clean chit. This all happened between the year's time, and right now the main question which will raise is what will happen next, because the investigation happened, SIT team was formed, and after SIT team team was formed, there was so many allegations was made on Samir Wankhede, and this two person who I was talking about, it was Ashish Ranjan and VVS Singh. So right now the main question is that what will happen next, because right now the main development happened in this whole big fat case is that Aryan Khan has been given clean chit by the court, by the NCB.
Aryan Khan has got relief in this case. Shiv Arur, our executive editor, also continues to be with us. Shiv, in fact, the NCB is going to be giving out a detailed statement in just an hour from now. What do you really expect to talk about, essentially, given the manner in which... Yes.
You know, the press conference that's going to happen at 3 p.m. is going to be an extremely interesting one. I, for one, wish I could be there in person, Sneha, because, India Today was the only channel, dare I say the only media agency that covered this entire drama in a factual, clinical way, taking facts, taking documents, and constantly asking the questions. And that's the reason why not only is Aryan Khan and his family vindicated today, India Today's coverage, which was based on facts, also stands vindicated in many ways, because there were other channels which were making hugely irresponsible claims at that time, painting many of the people involved, including Aryan Khan, as criminals even before the fact, even before proceedings had taken place, and therefore it had become a national spectacle, a kind of tamasha where the innocent had been labeled guilty in a very sort of obsessive manner. Now the Narcotics Control Bureau will obviously need to answer. Let's remember that this is the Narcotics Control Bureau minus Samir Wankhede, who, as we had in that first reaction, said, I am no longer part of the NCB. You'll have to ask whoever's involved. I love how easily he washes his hands off all responsibility, and he will, of course, face action separately. But the NCB will have to answer, because it was the organization and not just Samir Wankhede that was conducting this entire investigation at that time. What proof did they have at the time of Aryan Khan's arrest that facilitated and necessitated and justified his arrest, that they are now saying we don't have anything? उस टाइम पे हमारे पास हाथ में कुछ था, अब कुछ नहीं है. What was that transition? That is going to be very important to explain, and not just internally as part of internal proceedings, but to the public at large. The Narcotics Control Bureau is not some satellite island. It is a government agency. It has to report to the people of India. The results of what has happened have to be reported to the people of India. And given that they were so wanton in sharing information, leaking photographs, leaking documents, allowing access to all kinds of things which should have been privileged or sensitive at that time, since this was an ongoing investigation, they should now similarly be very open in telling us what the truth actually is. If it requires introspection, if it requires culling their own bad apples, they had better be prepared to be very, very open about this, because this is a story that many millions in India were invested in because of the huge media interest. After all, that is justifiable too. This is Shah Rukh Khan's son we're talking about, not just anybody. This was a celebrity face at the center of it. It was a story that made a very intriguing, sort of tantalizing soap opera in the heart of Mumbai, and therefore nobody should be castigated for covering the story. But the Narcotics Control Bureau will have to answer three basic questions. A, what did it have in terms of proof at that time, which it does not somehow have now? B, what is the situation as far as the internal inquiry and proceedings are concerned, especially against Samir Wankhede, but as well as others? And C, will they provide more information beyond this press note in public? The 3-paragraph press note that's come out in public is one thing, but the public, Shah Rukh Khan's family, the lawyers, the judiciary, which was dragged into this entire spectacle, all will be owed more answers. And that's what India Today will be asking at 3 p.m.
All right, Shiv, be with us. We'll just come back to you. Meanwhile, we've had exclusive interviews play out here. Samir Wankhede has broken his silence. Yes, he says, I don't want to comment on what has happened. We've also spoken to Advocate Mukul Rohatgi, who was arguing this case on behalf of Aryan Khan. We're playing out all of those interviews in a few seconds. Take a look.
I am very relieved, and I am sure the young man and his father are equally relieved. It was clear to me from day one, when the matter was heard for bail in the High Court, that there was no material against this young man. He was not in possession of any drugs, and there was no reason why he should have been arrested I think it was a hasty decision in the heat of the moment. But anyway, the truth has prevailed. It's unfortunate that he spent 25 days in jail. But according to me, now the whole chapter should be treated as closed, and one should look to the future, and that's it.
समीर वानखेड़े जी, नारकोटिक्स कंट्रोल ब्यूरो की टीम ने चार्जशीट दाखिल कर दी है। आर्यन को उसमें क्लीन चिट देने की बात कही जा रही है, उसके खिलाफ चार्जशीट दाखिल नहीं हुई है। क्या कहना है आपका? आपने पूरा मामला देखा था।
सॉरी, मुझे कुछ नहीं कहना है। नो मोर इन एनसीबी, प्लीज हैव द रिस्पेक्टेड ऑफिसर।
समीर वानखेड़े जी, नारकोटिक्स कंट्रोल ब्यूरो की टीम ने चार्जशीट दाखिल कर दी है। आर्यन को उसमें क्लीन चिट देने की बात कही जा रही है, उसके खिलाफ चार्जशीट दाखिल नहीं हुई है। क्या कहना है आपका? आपने पूरा मामला देखा था।
सॉरी, मुझे कुछ नहीं कहना है। नो मोर इन एनसीबी, प्लीज हैव द रिस्पेक्टेड ऑफिसर।
NCB has just filed a charge sheet in which Aryan Khan's name is missing. This is a very high-profile drugs case which had unfurled in Mumbai some couple of months back. What's your take on it, sir?
This shows that all along this government has been indulging in misuse of agencies for their retail politics and has been indulging into headline management to hide its own failures. Obviously, if there is a case related to the film industry, it will get traction, it will get a lot of headlines. That's what this government wants.
So, the way things happen, because we have seen that even the initial investigating officers, questions were raised on them also, and now Aryan Khan's name not figuring out in the charge sheet. What do you make of it? Because the way things had panned out in the couple of months when the investigation was initially going on, what does it reflect?
The agencies of this country need to be now aware that they should not get misused and they should protect the integrity of their agency institutions. Because at the end of the day, their heads are on the block. People will lose trust and are losing trust in these agencies. They should stop becoming puppets in the hands of this government.
Well, we've heard from the Congress as well, not just from the Central Congress, but also from the Maharashtra Congress that has come out and said that there was an attempt to defame the Maharashtra Vikas Aghadi government. This is misuse of agencies, and that agencies were being used to settle scores with Shah Rukh Khan, was said even at that point in time. But this time around, we have political reactions. The opposition particularly is talking about how agencies have always been misused. Pankaj Upadhyay is right outside the NCB. Also, he did get us that word from the Maharashtra Congress that has clearly spoken about how attempts were made to defame Pankaj, the Mahavikas Aghadi government, by using this agency against Aryan Khan, against the son of Shah Rukh Khan, essentially. Just go back to Pankaj in a few moments from now, but we have these reactions also in which Advocate Mukul Rohatgi has come out and spoken to India Today, saying that right from the very beginning, he was arguing that no drugs were found on Aryan Khan. Remember, the NCB's major argument against Aryan Khan's bail was that drugs were recovered from Aryan Khan's friend, Arbaz Merchant, and that WhatsApp conversations essentially suggested that there was an international drug trafficking syndicate. The NCB will have to answer as to what they have to say about the clean sheet being given. What about those WhatsApp conversations? Shiv, a lot of them were selectively leaked to the press. How was that the clean sheet has been given if there was enough proof is the question, isn't it?
That's the clincher. That's exactly what I'm talking about, Sneha. You've hit the nail on the head. The fact is that every nugget of information, whether it was WhatsApp chats, whether it was photographs, whether it was, alleged links between Aryan Khan and others, whether it was documents, whether it was these selective, source-based pieces of information that were planted in different parts of the media. Of course, India Today always took them with a bucket of salt and always reported them with questions. That's precisely what the Narcotics Control Bureau will now have to explain. One by one, and I hope, the rest of the media has the spine to do this, which is that each and every one of those pictures, WhatsApp chats, whatever it is, are sort of poked in the face of the Narcotics Control Bureau and said, here's what one of your guys sent us on October so and so. Here's what you guys sent us on, October 15th, blah, 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 like that, and say, this is what you need to explain and defend right now. If this was being projected just less than a year ago as somehow, very, very persuasive proof to facilitate and justify the arrest of Aryan Khan, the son of Shah Rukh Khan, then why has it not held up now? Why is this no longer sufficient to include Aryan Khan's name in this charge sheet right now, which is a clear embarrassment to the Narcotics Control Bureau? Was it headline management? Was it narrative building? Was it trying to gain, public support, in this, in an investigation which clearly had very, very rough edges, with many possible violations which are hopefully going to come out as part of that internal proceeding? Was it to divert public attention away from the fact that there were these, oversights and violations within the investigation with the presence of some shady, dubious external characters in this whole thing? So all of this is, makes it a very shadowy case, and the Narcotics Control Bureau cannot get away from it by saying, we messed up. There's nothing against Aryan Khan, and therefore this is a clean chit that we are giving to Shah Rukh Khan's son, because the last nearly 1 year, and especially at that time for 26 days when he was not breathing free air, it was made to seem like this is a sitter, this is a open and shut Aryan Khan, and he
क्यों उनको चार्जशीट में नहीं शामिल किया गया?